Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Leonardo Lampret and welcome back to another episode of Scales and Tales. Today we're going to discuss a very interesting topic, and the question we're actually going to address today is whether or not the claimant is entitled to temporary total disability after the surgery was performed. However, before the surgery was performed, the board released a decision that the claimant was not attached to the labor market. Now, we all know that when a person is considered temporarily partially disabled in front of the Workers' Compensation Board in the state of New York, and they remain to be out of work, and therefore the carrier has a right, or rather obligation, to pay the claimant a weekly awards based on that temporary partial disability finding. The carrier has a right to raise a labor market attachment, which means that the judge will direct the claimant to produce evidence of job searches within certain deadline. Now, if the claimant fails to produce a sufficient evidence of labor market attachment, therefore, the judge will most likely suspend the awards based on the failure of sufficient evidence of the labor market attachment. And the claimant will be considered to voluntarily withdraw from the labor market attachment. Now, the question is, what happens if the claimant has a surgery after that and is being considered totally disabled because of that surgery? Well, here was actually an issue that was addressed in front of the Third Department back in 2006. The case law is Bacci versus Staten Island University Hospital from 2006. And pretty much what happened there is the claimant had a right knee surgery. However, before the surgery even happened, the board made a finding that the claimant had refused light duty work and thus had voluntarily withdrawn from the labor market. Now, the claimant filed after the surgery filed an RFA-1 for their claim to be restored for the hearing, and the judge granted the awards. However, the carrier appealed the decision, and the board actually came back in favor of the carrier, and the board panel rescinded the awards on basis that the disability did not cause any lost wages, since she had no wages to lose given her prior voluntary withdrawal from the labor market. Surprisingly enough, the Third Department agreed with the board, stating that the claimant voluntarily removed herself from the labor market prior to the time of her right knee replacement surgery, and therefore the board properly determined that she had no causa-related wages to lose as a consequence of the disability resulting from the surgery. So what this means for you? Basically, if the claimant is found unattached before the surgery, do not pick up voluntary payments after the surgery, because based on the Bacci, it will most likely not, the claimant most likely will not be entitled to any awards after the surgery if there was a finding that before the surgery the person was unattached from the labor market. Thank you very much and see you next time.